Welcome to Business Chats with Debbie, where we talk big stories from small businesses. I'm your host, Debbie Warburton, and today my guest is Gavin Harris from Kernow Media. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes,
I really appreciate it.
We've known each other for a couple of years.
We have.
Yeah, 2 years has just gone like whoosh. Don't realise how fast it's actually gone. Well, I think we met on Zoom meetings, obviously, because of COVID. Mm-hmm. And then the first meeting at YP after we came out of lockdown in 2020, July, I think we met. And I was like, oh my God, how tall is he compared to what he is on Zoom? You don't realise how big people are on Zoom because you just see the face. And there he was, man mountain, walking through the door. And that was it, really.
Yeah.
And then you've done our social media really from bits and pieces. Well, we started our social media with you, mm-hmm. And then we had a bit of a gap in between, and we've gone back. And mm-hmm. I must say, we're really, really happy with what you're doing for us. It's really, really good. It's getting some good traction now.
Amazing.
But I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about you and your business. And I know you had a really tough time during COVID. You got laid off as soon as COVID hit because mm-hmm. obviously you're in the hospitality and events industry,
yep.
which was hit considerably hard because of COVID.
Probably one of the hardest, yeah, definitely.
But out of that, you've started your own business, Kernow Media.
Like a caterpillar into a butterfly. Although I wouldn't consider myself a butterfly, more a slug. But.
Yeah. And then obviously because of the timings, you weren't entitled to all the grant funding and everything else that everybody else could claim because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I just want to hear a bit about your journey from then to now, really, how you've grown and how you've got to where you are.
Of course. Well, lots of mistakes, definitely, and but learning from people and being a part of a network like your partnerships just puts you in touch with everybody who's kind of perhaps not been through the same journey as you, but certainly they have stories that can kind of help you with your own journey. Yeah. If that makes sense. I mean, yeah, losing my job was I didn't expect it at all. Genuinely, quite happy, earning considerably good money, especially down in Cornwall. And then, COVID. I remember seeing the news reports on COVID and kind of thinking, oh my God, looks like end of days. Yeah. Thankfully, it wasn't. But it was the end of the job. Boris Johnson announced the lockdown on the Monday. The company I work for that day sacked. They went from 300 members of staff down to 30 across the world. 300 staff across the world, and that was everywhere from Singapore to America, Las Vegas in America, obviously Cornwall. And yeah, they they made the decision to go from 300 down to 30. I was lucky; I was one of the 30. And then the Thursday after. The Thursday from the Monday to the Thursday. Yeah. The Thursday I got the call, was working from home, and they let another 12 people go. So they went down from 30 down to 18 staff, and unfortunately I was one of the 12. So I was like, okay, we've got a little bit of savings. We're going to be kind of okay. It's only 2 weeks. Yeah. We're going to be okay. And obviously we weren't, but kind of every scenario runs through your head. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? I had this idea to kind of have like, I'm not a big fan of the word, but like a side hustle. And Kernow Media was going to be like a side hustle, and I was going to try and, run some adverts for a few restaurants in and around Cornwall on the side, like in the evenings, running them in the evenings. And I registered that business on the 2nd of March with an idea that it was going to be like a part-time thing. And, my wife, Lorna, when it got to it, she said, well, look, got made redundant. That was the Thursday. The Monday, I thought I'll take the Friday off. I'll look for a job on the Monday. And of course, no one was looking for staff on the Monday. So I was kind of like, okay, I don't know what to do here. And the wife said, you had this idea. What can you lose? Yeah. So, and that was that. And then, almost 2.5 years later, somehow, touch wood, we'll still keep going, but still here, still going, still strong. Interesting.
Yeah, it's been
and
an interesting
learning curve
time.
Like that as well.
It's been an interesting time for a lot of businesses, and those. Do you know what I mean? I'm speaking to quite a few people through the podcast series of people who've done exactly what you did. Do you know what I mean? They were made redundant, and then they've started their own business up. Because to me, that's an inspiration. Do you know what I mean? It's never ever happened to us before ever. Do you know what I mean? No one knew what to expect. No one knew how to cope. And here you are starting something new in a global pandemic. And to me, that is an inspiration. And to where you've got now, do you know what I mean? You've survived it. You've come out the other end. Do you know what I mean? You haven't had an established business like most people have going into it to keep running and going. You've started fresh, which to me is an inspiration, really. And to a lot of people, it's an inspiration. Do you know what I mean? You 2 years later down the line, COVID hopefully is behind us now. Yeah. And you've got a successful business and it's growing from strength to strength.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've had a lot of friends, and you know, full disclosure, I was very comfortable where I was. I was there for nearly 4 years. I was earning really good money, especially, you know, with wages like down in Cornwall. Especially in Cornwall, I was earning really, really good money. I had no aspirations to leave long term. I wouldn't have had if I'm honest, I wouldn't have had the courage to do it because I was so comfortable. And so in some ways, COVID did take me out of my comfort zone, and it kind of gave me no option. It's like, well, you do this or you do nothing, and your family and you will be living, living on the streets or living with family, whatever. So it was really no choice, but it has been good. But I've had friends who are still employed now who reached out to me and were like, oh my God, it's great what you're doing. And, you know, it looks like it. But what I try and say to everybody is, you know, much like I was going to do, I think, kind of having that side hustle and building something whilst working. I think most people could do it, but it's having I think it's number one, having the courage to be able to do it, but also having the drive, because a lot of people, you know, I make no secret the fact when I first launched the business, I mean, I was working 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. Yeah. And it was genuinely kind of waking up downstairs working. It's
really hard running your own business. really hard running your own business.
And I'm very, very fortunate that obviously we're now at 4 employees, and we've got one person that's contracted to us as well, myself included in the 4. That I've got a team, and I've been very lucky with the people that I've employed that have always gone above and beyond working for me.
Finding the right team, do you know what I mean? I've got a wonderful team in the office, do you know what I mean? Will and Emma, I couldn't run the business without them. They're always there. They're behind me 100%. And finding a team that you can work with and you can get on with is so important, especially with a small business. So that's really good that you've got the right staff behind you.
Yeah, but again, you know, every I think every step forward I've made, it's always been a mistake. You know, I took on my first employee that I took on. I had no idea what was involved. I didn't understand about PAYE. I didn't understand, you know, the additional cost there. I didn't understand about contracts. As daft as it sounds, it's just nothing that I'd really considered. And it's only when I put the advert out and then I brought the first employee on board that someone said, well, have you done this? Have you done this? And I was, no, actually, I haven't done any of that. Yeah. And it's, again, you know, leaning on your network.
It's a learning curve. It's a really steep learning curve.
It is. Yeah, it really, really is.
Yeah.
But it's a fun one. And I think, you know, as scary as it's been, and you know, and again, you know, the one joke I kind of make all the time is that when you're an employee, the end of the month is like, hey, payday's coming up, here we go. As an employer,
it's like, oh my God, the wages are due.
Oh my God, the wages are due. Absolutely, yeah. And you kind of start getting heart palpitating. My heart rate's really high at the moment. But yeah, when it gets to that, and it's kind of, and as you know, it is it's an enjoyable journey. It's stressful, and it's, you know, at times you kind of, you know, let me off this roller coaster. But yeah, I don't think once you're in it, you know. And I've always said, you know, this is my first project, if you will. This business is my first project, and I don't know where this project's going to go. You know, whether it will be a legacy or whether it will be something that eventually I sell or whatever. But that's part of the journey as well, and I find all of that exciting. And it's, again, when I first started, it was just, you know, when I first started a business, it was okay. And Warren D'Souza always jokes about this, and he always uses it whenever he's talking to new members. But when I first started, I really wanted to get to £2,000 a month turnover. That was my goal. Right, if I get £2,000, and again, didn't take into consideration tax, anything like that. It was, I need £2,000 a month to be able to survive. And And when we hit that really quickly, and, you know, I think we hit £5,000 turnover relatively shortly after starting. And you know, it's the more that comes in, the more that goes out, because obviously the more clients you have, we need that
staff,
first employee.
Yeah, you need offices, you need more
equipment, software,
everything else. So,
yeah, and all of those, you know, like you say, the office, you know, all of those things all add up, and it all adds to the excitement, but it also all adds to the stress as well. But it's I'd be lying if I said, you know, there were not moments where I've kind of gone, oh God, just, you know, maybe just take a job. Just take a job. Take a job somewhere, take your 9 to 5, take your wage. Yeah.
I think everybody who runs their own business goes through it's like it is a roller coaster. And when you're coming on the down, you're like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why am I getting up every morning and putting myself through this? When I can go and get a job and get paid at the end of the month and not have to worry about paying your staff. And it is a roller coaster. But
it's the flip side as well, though, because I mean, last week I took Friday off. Didn't have to check with anybody. Just made sure that everything was running smoothly, and I went, you know what? I'm going to take Friday off just to spend with the kids. And you know, so again, as much as there are all those negatives, there are so many more positives. Yeah, you know, you don't have to. You know, you're in charge of your own destiny. I know that, like you said at the start, you know, I know that I started this business in the middle of a global pandemic, and I've made it work. I don't know how. I mean, you know, hard work, perseverance, hard work. Maybe a bit of mental instability as well, perhaps. But I mean, what I would say is that you know, I wouldn't change it for the world, and it's the positives of being your own boss 100% outweigh the negatives.
Yeah.
And, you know, even the girls that are in my office, my goal eventually is that we're all running the company together, or I help them with their own projects. Because, again, you know, I've worked for some really good bosses, and I've worked for some bloody awful bosses as well. And I like to think of myself as being a good boss. I hope the girls would agree. I mean, they certainly, you know, they seem happy.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's one massive negative. You can, you know, if you are your own boss, you're kind of, you know, you're creating your own opportunities. But more importantly than that, you know, you're kind of taking that I'm not going to swear, but that boss who's not very pleasant, you're taking them out of the equation, because that's you.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing for me as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. I feel like I waffled a bit there.
We're here 2 years later.
2 years later.
On the up.
On the up, yeah. And we've got plans, and, you know, we've just pushed out some new services. We originally went for I don't know if you saw the live. I did a Facebook live, and we hadn't come up with a name, and we'd had like 5 or 6 names written down. And I went, the Kernow Brand Blaster. And then one of the girls in my office, she just looked at me and she went, no. I went, no. I was already live. I went, okay, so we're not going to stick with that name. Probably not going to stick with that name. But what we've called it now is the Kernow, the Social Slingshot.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and that's like, I mean, we've had 10 clients sign up to that already, which is just incredible. And it's, you know, one thing we've never been able to do is guarantee. We've never been able to say we'll guarantee this many leads, but with that we can guarantee impressions. But and that's not. But I'm not plugging that service. Just to be clear, my point is that within the business you're always innovating, and you're always, you know, processes. You know, we started using Zapier, which is an online tool that automates a lot of processes. And I've heard of it, and I've seen it, and I looked at it probably about a year and a half ago, and I went, oh, it looks too complicated. It's fine. But we started using it probably 6 months ago. One of our current clients, their agency they were working with, used it, and he said, he said, actually it's probably a bit easier. Looked at it, set it up. We now use it for 10, 15 different processes within our business, and it's probably saved me, if I'm honest, 2-3 hours a week. Yeah. But you know, you are always innovating. You're always
looking for new things.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming in today and sharing your story, because, do you know what I mean? It is an inspirational story. Like most people who started the businesses during COVID, because, do you know what I mean? You had to start from fresh, and you're still going, and you're growing. So yeah, really inspirational story. So thank you so much for coming in today and sharing that with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I will see you all next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.